I mean, it's great to have Tate, because I started in 2000, the first conference with Tate. So it's great to have Tate again. It was the big objective was to share the best practice. So now we want to share the best practice, not on branding, but you have to say something on branding, which is interesting as well. So Anna, you've been at Tate for 11 years now, and you work in drama, in film, in performances, in many different disciplines, and also you are a researcher, and you're in charge of the foresight. So you conduct a lot of interesting mission, I don't know, projects with artists, so I will be interesting to hear. And next after you will be Wendy. So we can all sit and listen to you.
Okay, is this working? Yeah? Okay, this is going to be a presentation. Are you all okay? It's been quite a long afternoon. I'm mindful you're probably going, just be quick. We don't care what you do, just be quick. So I will be as quick as I can without being baffling. This is going to be a presentation in two parts, because the first part is a bit of a backstory. Thank you. It's a bit of a backstory on how we got to Tate Exchange, just so that you have some sort of idea, which will then help you figure out what the hell the challenges and the benefits are. So I will be quite swift, though, because there are probably things that you've talked about yesterday or we've talked about this morning. So I'm hoping they're sort of in your purview, and we'll just speed through them. That's the plan, anyway. And I'm really hoping that someone will throw something at me if I look like I'm going to go on forever. Or, in fact, I'll just look at you, because you will be collapsing in your seats or shutting your eyes. So here's the first bit at speed. So that's Tate. That's not exactly what Tate looks like. Obviously, it hasn't changed into a lollipop. But I just wanted to just reflect back on where I come from, really. And we have a values-based learning practice at Tate. And our values are trust, generosity, and risk. So just so you know. But there is a difference between education and learning. When I first arrived, there seemed to be some uncertainty about that. I'm quite interested in what happens when you put learning first, and really for that, I suppose, in our context, when you put the visitor first, what happens when you put not the program first, but the people you're hoping might want to be engaged with you, and what role might the museum have in that? So here are the definitions I kind of work to. So formal education, which is about the structures and systems that are formed for why a set of socially determined values, is what you learn, why you learn, and how you learn. But we know that many education systems across the world fail for young people all the time, and many young people don't really learn. So you can educate all you like, there's no guarantee anyone's going to learn. There's a brilliant book actually called I Want to Learn, but Never From You. So read it, it's a good read. Whereas learning is defined as change through experience. And whether you're a neurobiologist or whether you're a constructivist theorist who works in education theory, you'll probably use change through experience to articulate what you're doing. And that's why we changed ourselves to learning, really, as a team instead of education, because actually there's a sense that there needs to be some change that happens for people. And I feel if people don't go away with some sort of change, we might not have done our jobs. If they come, they have a nice time, they go away again, I go, did they learn anything? Not did they learn anything new, because that's an oxymoron. So this is our context in 2006. We did some research, because that is my background. And we just saw that this was happening in museums. Does it, not just museums, in education, in architecture. Do you recognize it? There's been a move from the passive to the participative, from the standardized way of doing everything to a much more personalized, from transmission, like I'm doing now, to a much more co-constructed model, from what you know to how you use it, from a single voice of authority to a plural voice, and from private knowledge to public access. So we saw those as changes in 2006 already happened, gone. So if we think that's yet to happen, it's happened. We're already there. That is what people think we are doing. And if we think that that is what's happened and that's what's going on for people, then my question was, well, what needs to change? And the ugly truth is that actually everything needs to change. And so I've consolidated what was actually 5 years of thinking into one slide. Good luck with it. But really, these are the sort of four things that we realised, was that you need to rethink your content, you need to rethink your spaces. Sometimes a separate space is absolutely the right thing for learning, and sometimes being in front of the artwork is absolutely the right thing. So I don't want to, you know, there are many different ways to do these things. There isn't any one way. Talking about ways, methods, we need to shift our method, how we go about, what we go about, and why we go about it, I think, probably. And then we need to rethink time, how we think about time, how ongoing our programs are. Sometimes being sustainable for months or years is absolutely crucial. Sometimes an hour is enough. So we have to rethink that and our values to that, because there was a period of time where I was going, if it isn't forever, it's not good enough. And I remember someone really great saying to me, depends what happens in that hour, Anna. I was like, oh yeah, maybe. So you know, some of our most important moments we can recall as very small moments that have had transformative responses for us. So you know, let's keep it all in perspective. And then written underneath is context, because everything is dependent on your context, and nothing really can be made true about everything, because everything is context specific. So you know, the context at Tate with 7 million visitors a year is not the same as a small museum who has 70,000 a year, and you know, they're just not comparable. So methodology might not be comparable. This is what we thought we needed to do if we were going to put learning first. So if you have participative, personalised, co-construction, how you use it, plural voice and public access. For Tate, in its context, we thought that we would have to do something that was practice-led, had wider range of engaging, was collaborative and had lots of partnerships, recognised beyond the walls of the museum, had new spaces, engaged digitally, had artists, public and experts all together, and was about opening up. So that's what we thought we had to do, which kind of takes us to Tate Exchange. But before we do that, I'm just going to take a tiny step to the right about creative learning, because I don't think it's just learning we're interested in our team. I think we're interested in creative learning. And I think Wendy might be talking a bit more about creativity and creative learning in a bit. But here are 4 quotes I love. And I actually think that maybe the Eric Fromm, who's one of my all-time favourites, creativity requires the courage to let go of certainties. And in the last 4 years, I've had to let go of pretty much every certainty I've ever held. But that has been part of the process. And it is part of the process when the learner and the teacher are one. So I really recognise that too. And I was just thinking about the part of the talk today has been about everybody being an educator. I'd say maybe everybody being a learner. That actually we all learn together and we all have something to give and take together. No one has to take the authority of educating another. Perhaps we all need to take responsibility of learning from and with one another. So why does it matter? Well, I think, this is me, this is why I think it matters. We do live in a rapidly changing world. You know, we are living in sort of crisis and uncertainty and forms of things that we call terror that we really don't know how to deal with. We have an economic landscape that is carnage and not sustainable. We have people who live very separately and have quite a lot of lack of personal interaction. I don't need to go through that. You can make up your own bits about all that. But, you know, these are all our challenges of today. So what role might the museum play? Why does the museum play? Well, the museum plays because it has a social role to play in any society. We have public funds that enable there to be some sort of place for cultural exchange. What I'm hoping will happen now is that these will just roll. And I've put them, up as in the time that most people look at any piece of art in the UK, because apparently it's different in different countries. So you'll see them for as long as people usually look at a piece of art. And this is Tate Exchange. This is the programme, or it's bit snippets of, but I thought you might just like to see some images if you've already finished with me talking. And you can see the kind of things that we've had in Tate Exchange. And I'm just going to go through as swiftly and smartly as I can exactly what it is in a bit of a texture. So Tate Exchange is on top of all the other programs that my team does. So I have 6 teams, I have 40 members of staff, and we have a program that already runs. So this is on top of that. It's an open experiment, and we totally know that as an institution. This is an experiment, we don't quite know what's going to happen. And it seeks to explore the role of art in society. What is its role? Does it have one? Can we all go home if it doesn't? It includes international artists, contributors from different fields, the public, and over 50 associates. That's organisations and individuals. So that could be the Open University, or it could be Tourette's Hero, which are 2 people. So a really wide range, who work with and beyond the arts, both locally and nationally. And they create 9 months of participatory programs, so that's key to it. People have to be able to get engaged with it. Workshops, activities, debates, and some things that I don't really think we know what they are at the moment. Sometimes things happen, we go, was that it? Was that happening? It was an intervention. It was. So I think some new practices are emerging, and we're never quite sure how to articulate them. It's interesting. It takes an entire floor of the new Blavatnik building at Tate Modern. So, that's quite a big deal if space represents value. And it's also on the first floor galleries at Tate Liverpool. So Tate Exchange exists in 2 of the sites. And it was envisaged as a site of sort of a figure of 8, that you'd be able to come into it, you get sort of nourished a bit, and you'd go back out into the galleries. And that's certainly what we have seen, is that people feel much more confident to go back into the galleries and be able to look at the work, hopefully for longer than 6 seconds. So it takes an entire floor. It's an annual programme, so we're going to do it forever. It's for 9 months, so it runs from September through to June every year. It is directly based on the different way that art has become active over the last 60 years. And that is because that is the 3 floors of collection that sit below Tate Exchange. So I don't know whether you've been to the new Tate Modern, but it has the tanks, which has a lot of performance practice. Then it has 3 floors that all look at how art has become active. And then we have Tate Exchange, which kind of represents a kind of debating space or a kind of actualization of what's happening today. So it speaks to the collection, and all the associates' work has a connection to the collection, so that it's not just sort of abstracted from what we do and who we are. Of course, over time, artists have changed the understanding of what art can be and what it can do. Some have involved the public more directly in responding. Some contribute, sometimes people make work with them. It's sometimes called participatory practice, socially engaged practice, relational aesthetics, depends what article you're writing. And these have been going for many years. And as many have developed practices and processes that draw on every life, some seek to transform it, some don't. So there's a huge arc of practice within kind of participatory processes, and I don't privilege one above another. I kind of go, different artists are trying to do things in different ways for different people. Some work better for a real collective of people joining in, co-contributing, and some people prefer to join in something that's already constructed and they can just step into. So let's be careful not to make assumptions. In Tate Exchange, we create a platform for people to take part in and contribute to experiences and ideas that make art relevant to our lives today, drawing on these practices. Equally, you can come to the space and sit and do nothing and stare out the window. You have permission to stop and do nothing. And what we found is that giving permission to do nothing makes people want to do something. Not surprisingly, because you give people the agency to choose for themselves instead of telling them. So it runs for a year. Our first artist, we have a lead artist every year. First year it was Tim Etchells, who has been completely beautiful and brilliant, and I think I love him. He helped shape the theme, and we have, as you wouldn't be surprised to hear, a very big research and evaluation program that sits underneath. So we've been capturing data all along. And we have more feedback from the public than the rest of the whole of Tate Modern. So they really do want to feed back. It's very interesting. 3 phases. First phase is international artists. My team program with them. Probably going to change that next year. We're not sure it worked in the ways we wanted to do. Second phase is all these external organisations who come in and program their own thing. We don't intervene. Some have been more successful than others, but all very interesting. Some have been brilliant. That was very good. And phase 3 is our research findings and capturing data. So we're going to be totally explicit. We're going to share what we found straight away. Some of it's really amazing, some of it's a bit disappointing. It's what you'd expect from doing actual research that is, genuinely seeks to find something out and tell you what it's finding. So, what are the benefits and challenges of doing a program like this? I was saying to someone earlier, I might just do it once in my life, this. So that's one of the challenges, is keeping at something of this kind of scale. But if you're trying to do something different or differently, then there will be challenges, because you'll be challenging what is to a what-if situation. So just recognise that there will always be challenges if you do that. I'm going to just briefly cover, I think, artists, the institution and the public, and the benefits and the challenges to each of those.
We have 5 minutes.
Perfect,
yes.
Thank you. So, in terms of the institution, it's helped us to connect across teams and departments, but draws challenges of time, capacity, structures and systems. I mean, basically, the organisation is not really set up to do this. It's set up to have exhibitions and sort of discrete learning programmes. So this is a challenge in many respects. Even if it's one that was wanted, it still challenges the systems. It's been a catalyst for various changes. We've certainly, I don't want to overclaim, but it's certainly started up a whole different conversation with the curators in terms of what they want to do, and they've been big collaborators on this, and Francis Morris has been amazingly supportive and behind this. We've learned a lot from the associates in terms of their attitudes and behaviours, and people have talked about this. So there's a kind of scenario of doing things for people. So that kind of totalising idea that, we'll look after young people, all of them, and we'll do it for them in a kind of benevolent gesture, which is kind of patronising and unhelpful, as opposed to doing it in a responsibility to the idea that people should all be able to have access or engagement. And that to and for, I think, are very different, because if we're responsible to something, we might have to be in dialogue with other people. That's for another time. We've taken programmatic risks, and that's been a real benefit, because there's been some amazing new stuff happen, but also it's a challenge, because those are reputational risks, and those are very complex risks. I mean, we did sex education became one of the programs that someone did, and I've watched some films that I never thought I would watch. With a lawyer, I never thought I'd sit next to watching it. And so, those things have to be considered, and they are real challenges, because those are the sorts of things that you might have to stop. We've also had... well, I was going to just give you a few numbers. We expected about 45,000 people to come. We've actually had 80,000 people have come. Over 67% spend between 20 minutes and 2.5 hours in the space. And this is deliberately dropping. So we've actively, because it's Tate Modern, gone, we have a huge footfall. What do people do if they want to know a bit more? How do they do this? But people actively, some people stay 4 hours. Some people we have to kind of drive home, So the appetite for doing this is so much more than I think we ever imagined. People really want to make. They're desperate to make and do things and contribute and play a part in the museum. Digitally, it's been huge. We had our most successful webcasting that we've ever had at Tate. We've seen different publics. We've had 22% have been publics who've never come to us before and are a completely different demographic. 41% have been young, which is amazing. We've had an increase in a lot of the BAM audiences, but what we've also seen probably the most of, and you'll probably recognise it here, is something intergenerational going on, where actually people have been coming in much more different groups. So, 3 more things and I'll end. What artists have told us is that it's changed the way they practice. They've also challenged us on how we do things with them. Sometimes they've been really excited about what we can offer, and sometimes they've been outraged that we won't let them dangle out of a building with a member of the public attached. And we have to go, there are things we as an institution have to do, and you as an artist might not worry about. So that's been very interesting. I think it's raised a lot of the people who've been involved, profile and reach, that's what they've told us, but also the challenge for us is to manage expectations and to have a genuine give-get, because although we give a platform, we also are getting a lot out of all these wonderful things. Right at the end, the public have they tell us that they've learned something.
every day. Usually about art, but not always. They've said it's changed their perspective, or they've had thoughts opened up. It's been an invitation in a very, very clear way to them that they really respect. They can come once for an hour or every day the whole week. Some people have. Barbara, 86, came every day for 2 weeks, from the moment it opened to the moment it closed. Really extraordinary. They've been able to contribute their own ideas. They've had interesting conversations, and they've been able to directly
Can you make the
engage with staff.
conclusion,
Yep.
Anna, please?
Last point is that something else has happened, though. And the big something else that has happened is that it seems to have created a civic emotional space. That actually the conversations and the quality of conversations have been extraordinary, and they've been bigger than many of these things we're talking about. And I don't quite know what's going on there, but I've had more people cry, laugh, and have something else happen together in that space than I think I've ever seen before. So I'm going to end it there. I don't have any answers to that, but there's clearly a need for this kind of space. The question is, how far does the museum go in giving that?